Today we're going to talk about standard events in Magic Arena and other constructed events, and we'll go through everything you need to know to figure out if these events are worth it for you, and if you try them out, what's the best way you can go about doing it so that you're going to get the best results. So let's do that now. But before we get into standard events, don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to get future content just like this. So, you might be playing ranked games, you might get to Platinum and not really see the point in grinding further up to Diamond and Mythic. You might want to try a different challenge, or you might be in Mythic and there's nowhere further to go, so you want to try something else. So you might be looking at standard events because the normal play queue might be less interesting to you, might not be as competitive. The standard events offer a way to have a competitive environment that offers extra rewards that you don't normally get from playing in the ranked queue when you get to a certain level. Because once you've already got to Platinum, going all the way to Diamond and then all the way to Mythic after that only gets you one extra pack for each of those tiers, which basically means you're doing a lot of work for pretty much nothing apart from bragging rights that you got to a certain rank. So you might want to look at something like standard events because we can get more rewards from standard events than we can from grinding past Platinum if you have a decent enough win rate. So let's go over the three main things that are going to make a difference to your overall win rate in any constructed event like this. So first of all, the thing that's going to make a huge difference is the deck that you bring to the event. You don't want to go to a standard event or the normal ranked queue with a deck that just doesn't work very well, something you're just testing out, or even maybe just something that's a very budget-friendly deck. Like they can work pretty well, but you don't want to take them to the most competitive environment because they're not going to beat the best ones, the upgraded versions of the budget decks. So you want to have the best deck possible. That's number one. The second thing that's going to make a difference to your win rate is your luck, and that's the matchup you're against. So whether you are against an aggro player that's just too fast for your deck, or the luck you get in your opening hand, or in the cards that you draw. If you draw 5 lands in a row, you just got bad luck. So yeah, that can make a big difference to individual games, but not necessarily to the overall win rate of compared to other people, because it's going to even out. If you have bad luck one day, someone else is going to have bad luck another day. You're going to have good luck later on. The luck factor should even out over time. It just affects those individual games. And then you have the third factor, which is your skill. And this is the one that's actually going to make a difference because you can just pick the best deck and you can take that. You can have luck that evens out. But the thing that's going to make a biggest difference to your win rate is your actual skill with the deck. And that's not just knowing how that deck works, but knowing what other decks are out there, what your opponent is likely to play next, the other cards you think they might have in their hand, and trying to work out all those extra little details that some players probably don't think about. But it also covers things like making sure you read the cards properly and don't forget to activate your abilities at opportunities where it's basically free to do so. So when you put it all together, the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to your win rate is obviously just your skill versus their skill, leveling out everything else. So we want to make sure we take the best deck. That's step one. So in order to bring the best deck to a standard event, what you want to do is be able to test out decks as much as possible. So you might want to look at something like EtherHub or Untap.gg and find the decks that have the highest win rates. You might want to try those out yourself and see which ones fit the playstyle that you like, that you enjoy, and that you're good at. And then I would take the best deck you can find to the ranked queue because that's the most competitive environment you have without having to spend resources on trying to do standard events. You don't want to jump straight into them. That's how you're going to just waste gems or waste gold. So take it to the ranked queue instead. And if you're in Platinum, in fact, I think you should say just get to Platinum first at the very least. And then if you're in Platinum, use that deck as much as possible and see whether you can still rank up with that deck. You want to make sure you have at the very, very least a 50% win rate with the deck, and you can track it to see how much of a win rate you have overall. If you use something like MTGA Assistant, then you can track the exact win rate, how many times you're on the play and on the draw. You can track your win rate against different specific decks as well. So how successful you are against mono red and mono blue and mono black and soldiers and everything else that's out there at the moment. So you can do that. Or if you don't have any extra tools like MTGA Assistant, you can just look at whatever rank you happen to be, the exact step that you are in whichever tier you're in, and then just play as many games as you can with that deck. And then after all that, just see where you are in the ranking, because you need a 50% win rate to advance beyond whatever rank you got to. So if you're on Platinum Tier 3 right at the beginning of that, you'll know that after 10 games or 20 games, if you're higher than that, you've got more than 50% win rate. That might sound really obvious, but I think it's really important just to make sure the deck you're using gets at least a decent win rate to start with. And by doing that practice in the ranked queue, you're going to have the best competitive environment to start with. It's going to be the biggest challenge for the deck. You don't want to do it just in the casual play queue, because other people will be testing out random fun decks in there every so often, or quitting because they got their daily quests done. So you don't want to have that skewing the results. So once you've done that and you've taken your deck to the ranked queue and you found a deck that basically has maybe a 55 to 60% win rate, maybe 65 if you're doing really well, then that's the deck you want to take to the standard event. So we're going to break down the actual event and everything you get from there now that you've got a decent deck to start with. So in the actual event, you have the entry cost in gems or in gold, and you have all the rewards. Now this is the standard event, but we can have a look at the other constructed events as well. So you also have alchemy events, explorer events, historic and standard. You do also have traditional events, which are the best of 3 ones, but we're just going to stick to best of 1 events for now, because the majority of you will probably go for that. If you know how to do best of 3, if you're really good at best of 3, then you can translate this theory over to that. Okay, so in the standard event, you can pay 375 gems or 2,500 gold to enter. You get to play until you get 3 losses, and if you get to 7 wins, you get the maximum rewards. You get more rewards as you go up. Even if you get 0 wins, you get some reward. For 1 win, it goes up to 50 gems. Then it goes up to 75 gems in the pack, 200 gems in the pack, 300 gems in the pack, 400 gems in 2 packs, so it goes up a bit of a jump there. 450 gems in 2 packs, which is only a tiny jump up. And then 500 gems, 3 packs, and a play-in point. The play-in points probably don't mean much to you unless you want to take part in competitive events, and even then you need to have lots of play-in points to actually enter the events. So I'll make a different video about play-in points and everything to go through it in more detail, but it's just what you get if you happen to get 7 wins before 3 losses in events. So there is a discount on the gems. For all other events, for drafts, it's the same way. 1,000 gold is normally worth 200 gems. So 2,500 gold would normally be 500 gems, but we're getting a 25% discount on the gems, which means you're only paying 375. We're saving 125 gems. So normally if I'm going to buy packs, I'll buy packs with gold, and if I'm entering events, I'll do that with gems because you get the discount. So the reason why is another way to say it is that with 375 gems, if you were to buy packs with those gems, you'd get just under 1.9 packs. So just less than 2 packs if you're spending 375 gems. But if you're spending 2,500 gold, that's 2.5 packs. So it might not sound like a big difference, but over time, if you're doing lots of events, that extra difference is going to add up to quite a significant difference. So I'd rather use gems to pay for the events. Now, if we're going to pay 375 gems to enter this event, if we get to 3 wins, then we get 200 gems and 1 pack. And I've seen people before, they look at this and they say, well, a pack is worth 200 gems. So if I get to this level, I've got 400 gems worth of value and I've only spent 375 gems. But that's not true because the reward packs, the packs we get here, because we didn't buy them in the store, they don't count towards golden pack progress. So they're actually only worth about 60 odd percent of the normal value for a pack if you were to buy it in the store. So instead of this pack being worth 200 gems, it's actually worth something more like 140 gems, just in the value and the rares you get from opening it. So this isn't 400 gems worth of rewards, it's actually about 340 gems worth of rewards. So even if we get 3 wins, if we only get 3 wins before 3 losses, we're paying 375 gems and we're only getting about 340 gems worth of value. It's not a huge difference, but it's a little bit less than where we'd like to be. If we get 4 gems, we're going from if we get 4 wins, we're going from 200 gems to 300 gems. So that's going to be 440 gems worth of value for 375 gems paid. So obviously 4 wins is profit, but we're also only getting 300 gems as a reward. So we're not getting more gems back than what we've paid in. We're basically spending 75 gems to get 1 pack, which isn't a terrible deal, but isn't amazing because it isn't the same as buying the pack in the store. You're getting a reward pack, which is kind of worth 140 gems for 75 gems paid. So it's like getting 1 pack for half price, pretty much. So it's okay. It's not hugely exciting. Now, if we go to 5 wins, there's a big jump up because now we get 400 gems and 2 packs. And if we're saying the packs are worth 140 gems, then 5 wins is worth 680 gems. And not just that, you're actually getting more gems out, 400 gems, than you paid 375 to enter. So if you get to this point and if you can get 5 wins before 3 losses, then you're going to have an infinite loop. And if you can do this, it's amazing. It's not easy. I have to emphasize it's not easy because some people think if I say this is possible, I'm suggesting it's easy. I'm not suggesting it's easy, but you could get there if you have a good enough deck and you are good enough at using that deck and used to using it. So then you basically get more gems in, then more gems back than you put in, and you get 2 packs for free. So if you keep doing this, you're going to get lots and lots of packs building up. That's if we're paying in gems. Now, obviously, if you go further, you're going to get more value, but 5 wins is kind of like the minimum that we want to get to. So you need kind of around a 55 to 62% win rate, something around that to get to 4 or 5 wins. And if you can do that, then that's fantastic. So that's what we can do with the gems. But like I said, you might want to pay in gold instead. If you have no gems and you want to take part in these events, maybe you want to turn your gold into gems using these events. So if we're paying 2,500 gold to enter the event, if we get to 3 wins, we're getting a pack, we're getting 200 gems. You're basically converting 2,500 gold into about 340 gems worth of value, which is not bad. It's one way of getting it, especially if you don't really like draft events, because drafting can be a good way to get gems as well. But if you don't like drafting at all, then this is definitely an option. But 3 wins is kind of okay. If we get to 4 wins, we're now getting 440 gems worth of value when you include the pack as well for 2,500 gold, which is really good. And if you get to 5 wins, then you get 640 gems worth of value back for your 2,500 gold. And normally 2,500 gold is only worth about 500 gems. So we're getting more gems value back than we would normally get if we're converting gold to gems, although some of that's in packs. So it's kind of like equivalent values. Or another way of breaking down the rewards, if you don't want to think about it in gems value, is that if you want to look at it in gold value, we're buying an entry for 2,500 gold. If we get to 3 wins, then 200 gems is 1,000 gold, roughly speaking. And the pack, it's not 1,000 gold pack from the store because we're not getting it from the store. It's worth about 60% or so of that value. So if we say it's worth 600 gold, roughly speaking, then getting 3 wins is 1,600 gold's worth of value, which doesn't sound that great compared to 2,500 gold entry fee. If we get to 4 wins, then the 300 gems is worth 1,500 gold, and another pack is worth 600. So that's 2,100 gold's worth of value for getting 4 wins, which isn't great. So we're not quite getting there with the equivalent value. If we get to 5 wins, then we've got 400 gems, which is 2,000 gold's worth of value, and 2 packs, which is about another 2,200, another 1,200. So that's 3,200 gold's value in total for getting 5 wins if we're paying in gold to enter. So if we're comparing entering in gold versus entering in gems, when you enter with gems, it only takes about 3 wins or just over 3 wins to get the equivalent value back. And with gold, you kind of want to get about 4.5 wins to get the equivalent value in gold back. So it's definitely much better to enter in gems if you have gems, but only if you've already bought the Mastery Pass, because the Mastery Pass is going to be even better value than entering events. So you want to make sure you've got the Mastery Pass first, and you're only spending spare gems on events like this. Or if you're entering with gold, at least you're converting gold into gems, and then you might have more gems to spend on future events. Or if you want to use this to get the gems for the Mastery Pass, you see what I'm saying. If you have the gems, spend them. If you don't, then the gold is perfectly fine to enter. One thing that's important to remember with the standard events is the way the matchmaker works, very roughly speaking, is that it will match you against other people with a similar win rate to you. So I don't know for sure if this is specific to the event that you've entered for that specific time. So like when you do your first event, you're playing other people in their first match. And when you've won a match, you're playing other people that have won one match. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. So like when you get to 6 wins, are you only playing other people that have 6 wins? It might not work like that. That does sound a bit restrictive. What's probably more likely is that you have a general ranking for when you have, if you get about 60% win rate in general, then you'll probably play against other people who have a similar win rate in general to you in those events. So it might not be that every time you're on 6 wins, you're playing someone else who's also on 6 wins, because that does seem a bit strange, but maybe it does work like that. But in general, what that means is generally the first few games that you play might be easier and the last ones might be harder, or when you're first entering the event, you might have, because you have a lower ranking, it might be that you kind of get it a little bit easier to start with. So it's worth trying, but you don't want to enter the event without being prepared with the right deck and knowing that, as much as you possibly can about how to use that deck effectively. Because in these events, you're going to play against either the best people with the best decks who know exactly what they're doing, or you're going to be playing against other people who are just kind of beginners or trying it out and just experimenting with it. So those games might be easy ones, but playing against the best players with the best decks is going to be kind of hard, and you really don't want to put yourself out there as one of those people that are just trying it out and you're just going to get farmed by the people that are really good. So definitely do your research with the deck first before you enter this event. But one other thing you can do to get a bit more experience of the event and see what it's like is if you have a second account, and I have a second account I use for drafting experience, sometimes drafting practice. You can also use a second account with your gold that you've just built up each day and enter standard events. Because you can get about 1,000 gold a day or just over 1,000 gold a day, you can pretty much enter 2 or 3 standard events every week on a second account if you wanted to. So all you need to do is start off, and if you don't have one at the moment, start off a new account, just get the wildcards you need for doing one specific deck that you want to try out, and you can get lots of wildcards just from doing the kind of new player experience and opening all those free packs. And then you can build that one deck on this new account. It doesn't matter what your collection looks like, and then just play standard events with that. Your matchmaking ranking might be different because you're a new player, but after a while that'll level out and you'll get basically the same matchmaking ranking as you would do on your main account. And when you do start doing these events, if you do give them a go, I would keep track of the type of deck you happen to play against most often, or what the meta seems to be like for these events, because it's not necessarily the same as you would see in Platinum and above on the ranked ladder. It might be slightly different. You might find more people with a very fast aggro deck, possibly. So try it out and see what comes up. And if you find out that 70% of the time you're playing against mono red, then maybe you want to make a deck that specifically beats that has a bit of life gain or some really effective removal that's going to work really well against mono red. And then you're going to be playing against the majority of people using that, and you're going to have a slightly better win rate against them than they will against other people. So maybe you can build an anti-meta deck like that. And it's worth remembering that all these tips and ideas, they apply to the other constructed events just as much as they do to the standard events. So the only difference really is that in the standard events, you're getting packs from the most recent standard set, which at the moment is March of the Machine Aftermath, because we have Lord of the Rings out at the moment, but that's not a standard set. So Aftermath is what you're going to get as a reward for that event. But if we go to the Alchemy event, then you'll see that the rewards for that are the Lord of the Rings packs. So if you want those packs, obviously, do the same thing. Get an alchemy deck that you find works really well. Play that in a ranked queue as often as you can. Get experience from that and see how that deck does in those events. But the same thing with Explorer and Historic is that you'll get some other random non-standard set as a reward, because it's not necessarily, it doesn't make sense to just get standard or the most recent standard packs from doing these events. So you will get a random pack from Explorer and Historic events. So it's going to help you build up a bigger collection of Historic and Explorer cards, and obviously get more wild cards from opening them so you can craft other things that you need. So if you're into Explorer or Historic or Alchemy, then the same thing basically applies, but I think the majority of people will be looking at standard events rather than the other ones. So that's all the tips we have for the standard event. Just to round up really quickly, you want to get the best deck you can. Try it out in as much of a competitive environment as possible. So whether that's the ranked queue from Platinum upwards or wherever else you can use it, or in a standard event on the second account where you're using free gold that you've built up. Try and get as good as you possibly can on using that deck. Then come and try it out in standard events and see how well you do. There will be some times where you're going to get 0 wins. It's going to happen sometimes. There might be some times when you get 7 wins. So you have to look at it as an average. Don't just take, if you have one event that goes really badly, it doesn't mean that every event's going to go badly, but there is some element of risk here, obviously. And the people you're going to be playing against have the same risk, same stakes. They've put some gold or some gems on the line to get some big rewards, ideally, from winning lots of games, so they're not going to give up easy. So I'd only recommend trying it out if you're happy with putting that risk out there, and if you want to try something a bit more competitive or maybe more interesting than just doing just ranking up slightly for hardly any extra rewards. So that's everything we can go through with the standard event. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If there's anything else that I've missed, or if you've tried out standard events, do you like them, do you hate them? Let me know below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for any future videos on similar topics on the economy, getting the most value out of the game, and fun decks that we can make at the same time. Okay, so thanks for watching this video to the end, and I will see you in the next one.